Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Civically Speaking. I'm Alicia Crank, the Executive Director at Seattle City Club, and I am ecstatic, if you can't tell, to have Chirag Vendullapalli with me, who is one of our Civically Engaged Youth Council leadership team members. Hi, Chirag.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for carving out time in your very busy schedule. So, Chirag, I wanted to have you on here because, when I was thinking about this podcast and even with working on creating this youth council, I remember getting an email from you wanting to connect and talk. And I was like, who is this kid? And I just knew that by the end of that conversation, I was like, this is the time to start the youth council, and I need him to be a part of it. So, Chirag, tell one of the things that I really appreciated about our initial conversation is the fact that you just graduated from UW a year ago,
Just
and
about.
but looking at your resume of things on LinkedIn, I'm like, this is the profile of a 40-year-old. Like you've done a lot of things, actually starting at age 10. Talk about the charity that you helped found back in 2010.
Yeah, sure. That's very nice of you to say. So when I was growing up, art was kind of my thing. I really enjoyed painting. It was just I still paint to this day, uh, acrylic and oil on canvas. But then when I was growing up and moved to Washington when I was 5, I got in. It was a way of getting to know both your neighbors, your friends in school. So we invited them to do an art painting activity at my art teacher's house in the Snoqualmie Valley. And it turns out, so first of all, it was a great success. Everyone had a great time, but everyone was able to contribute a couple dollars to the supplies, as well as also a couple extra dollars that we were able to get together to donate to the local hospital, and also the paintings that there were heart paintings. We were able to Everyone painted, and we were able to have those donated to the hospital as well. It was a pretty awesome experience, and it kind of was like an aha moment of when the light bulb goes off, is that, like, if you could bring young people together to do something that they enjoy, and frame it in a way of an exciting activity or something that connects the interest in supporting the community and giving back, but also through an engaging way. Young people are more than happy to be involved and stay involved, and that's when the Youth Foundation Creative Children for Charity started.
Mm-hmm.
As just an idea. The mission was to inspire to 1 million kids to donate, kids and teens and young people to donate their time and talent for social
Yeah.
causes. It grew into a bigger organization than I could have ever dreamed, and we did all kinds of projects, from technology projects to community service projects to entrepreneurship projects, and it was awesome.
And it lasted what, 10 years, or is it still
Yeah,
going on?
yeah. Also, yeah, and it continued after I left high school, and it was a great organization that donated thousands of dollars, and also was able to get thousands of kids together to donate thousands of volunteer hours on top of that to a variety of social, local, and international causes.
Yeah. Well, and that explanation is actually, again, one of the reasons why I said this is the time to start the youth council, because in talking with you and kind of speaking to a few others that also make up the leadership team, it took me back to my days of being a young Dem, right? You want to be politically active, whatever your affiliation is, but something didn't necessarily resonate with me in the way that I was hoping it would. And it wasn't until you and I talked that I figured it out, which is, coming in as the younger person at that time, it was, the older established folks that were saying, okay, young people, this is what we need you to do. And there wasn't a lot of room for, hey, this is what we want to do coming into this. And so, listening to your experiences thus far, it's like there is no way I would have been able to build this current youth council in that same way, because I think it's really important that we as the older folks listen to you, because you're not only are you talking about what you want to be engaged in, you're actually doing it, right? And so that's how we want to build this youth council here at City Club, is to say, okay, we want to listen to Chirag, we want to listen to Kellyanna, we want to listen to Brooke, we want to listen to Kellen, and say, okay, all of you collectively, show us what you're already doing and how we can benefit from that. What do we, as the civic leaders, the elected leaders, should be doing? So one of the projects that you're working on, and it's timely for this conversation because we are in an even election year statewide, and we're going to have a new governor, we're going to have a new, attorney general, we're going to have a U.S. senator that is running for reelection, but there are ways to be involved without necessarily having to work on a campaign, or if people trying to figure out how to even get involved. And you started a project around PCOs, which are precinct committee officers. Can you talk about what that project is and how you've already been working on it?
Yeah, for sure. So to give some background, when I was in high school and in college, I was uh, involved in more like the student government activities, that type of way, but I was never really necessarily politically involved. I was always politically interested. I cared about a certain range of issues and I wanted to make a difference on those. But the way that this project came about was now I've been able to work on a couple campaigns, both at the state level and the federal level. And I've seen, behind the scenes what that means to like how it all works.
Yeah.
And it's basically I'm hoping to share this knowledge and raise awareness of opportunities for other young people or really anyone that wants to be more involved that maybe might be on the not working currently in a political campaign, so that they are familiar that there are opportunities to be involved. So that's when the PCO project called Civic Champions started. And so what it is basically it's to hopefully address the lack of awareness about what a PCO, so a precinct committee officer, is. And for those who don't know, a precinct is what I like to call the building block of our democracy. So when you think of redistricting, when you hear about gerrymandering and whatnot, it really is how we draw the lines around precincts. Precincts are, your neighborhood, an apartment complex. Oh, there it is, a few city blocks. So it has a group of voters that are in a city, in a block, a precinct,
Yeah.
and each precinct has a PCO, one for a Democratic PCO, one for a Republican PCO, and those folks are supposed to be like the connective tissue in our democracy. Someone in your precinct, in your neighborhood, that you can ask questions about what's going on. They'll remind you when elections are coming up. They're involved in electing their party's leadership as well as also filling open seats when those arise. And they're elected for 2 years, as that says, in the August primary. And the project is we're working with TVW, Teach with TVW,
Yeah.
to create content activities for civic educators, both community colleges, high schools, to basically raise awareness so that folks know that voting is very important, number one. But number two is they can be more involved and take the next step of putting their values into action when they become a precinct committee officer in their local neighborhood. And it's supposed to be a comfortable, fun next step that doesn't require you having to work on a campaign, but also it allows you to stay engaged and involved with your community and what's going on in the world.
And I think one of the things that people don't realize, even when they're filling out their ballots and they'll see PCOs, what is this? That some people don't realize a PCO is an elected position. So
Yes.
this is a very kind of easy way for anyone, not just young people, but I think it's important that our younger set of folks get involved. That this is kind of an entryway into understanding the electoral process and the responsibilities that comes with it.
Totally, totally. It is on the spectrum of elected officials. It president's at the top, and then a PCO. It might be at the very bottom, but it's still a great way to be civically engaged and just be a responsible citizen in our world. And a lot of precincts are currently empty in our state. So there are lots of opportunities to get involved. And the reason why this project has come up, it's the timing is really quite interesting because it comes because of a couple changes in our state legislature around the age restriction about becoming a PCO prior to 2022. You had to be 18 by the time you filed in May, as that says. And then you were 18, obviously, during the August primary, and then 18 when you became a PCO officially in January and filled the term. But now, as of 2022, a new law passed that basically changed that. So now you can be 17 when you file, but you have to be 18 by the August primary.
Mm.
Uh, and then you're obviously 18 when you are fulfilling the term. But the hope of this project is while you're in a civics class, your AP Gov, your Washington State history, or whatever class that teachers are students are taking, they can add this on as a +1 lesson or activity to basically say, I'm glad that you guys are voting. We do pre-registration of voting in our schools now,
Mhm.
and they can vote in the primary as long as they're 18 by the general. But this is like the next of understanding how the infrastructure of our democracy works, and then opportunities for them to get involved regardless of their political affiliations.
And yes, thanks for pointing that out. So, right, as he said, PCOs can be either Republican or Democrat. They each have their own set of precinct officers. So that's inclusive right there. The filing week is the week of May the 6th. And
Mhm.
one of the great things about this too is that to do it for this one is free. There
Mhm.
isn't a registration fee or filing fee to run for this particular office.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't even know that. That's great.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to ask you about too is because I don't have children in the district, so I didn't know what the graduation requirements were. And I think one of the things you were just talking about is there a certain amount of credit or credits that someone has to have before they graduate high school?
Yes. So, and the reason why this project is also very timely is that in 2018, the state legislature passed a civics ed graduation requirement. It's a half credit of civics ed that's required to graduate from high schools in the state of Washington, and they're allowing school districts to basically figure out how to fulfill those requirements. So we're hoping that there's already an emphasis on this graduation civics class education in our schools. So hopefully those teachers that are fulfilling it through their classes can add another this lesson or activity to what they're already teaching as
Yeah.
a +1 addition.
Yeah. And so, in our April 6th civic cocktail, or is it the 3rd? I keep
I
forgetting.
think that's the third.
So in our April civic cocktail, we are going to be kicking off the youth council with you and your fellow leadership team members. And we're going to have that opportunity for each of you to talk about, your specific projects that you've been working on prior to this. And I do want to give you an opportunity to talk a bit more about civic champions, because again, what stood out to me wasn't the fact that, oh, you threw this together and oh, it's online and this and that, but you've actually been meeting with leaders and elected officials around this. So can you talk more about what civic champions is and how anyone could potentially get involved?
Yep, for sure. So Civic Champions basically has just started or kicking it all off after the state legislature is done with the legislative session on this Thursday. We are going to be working on creating the content and activities for high school teachers, civic educators to incorporate into their classes. We're hoping for it to be ready by the end of April, the middle to end of April, for teachers to test out, try, be our pilots during May and through the end of the school year in June. And then we're hoping that we'll have a couple dozen teachers and a couple, hopefully up to 1,000 students testing out the curriculum and content and seeing what they think. And the whole point of this is to raise awareness of what a PCO is, what the precincts are, how does our democracy, how's it all structured, how do the parties work, and the goal is for this to be nonpartisan, open to all, so that it's not teachers can go ahead and teach this because everyone's going to be talking about elections most likely when
Yes.
November rolls around, September, October, November. So our hope is that this will be, a great resource for our civic educators, community colleges, high schools, of course, nonprofits that are civically involved to use to basically be like, how can you get involved? And
Mhm.
we're recruiting teachers right now through the end of March to be, through the end of May to be our pilots. This is a 1 hour, less than an hour, 1 day lesson plan activity. The way I've been describing it to folks is think of how a bill becomes a law, like the Schoolhouse Rock video. So it's
Well,
supposed to be
you're
engaging and
aging me,
fun.
Chirag.
Totally. And it's supposed to be super fun, and we're recruiting teachers that are interested, and we're so there's my email, so feel free to reach out if you're interested, or even know a teacher or a civic educator that you can forward this on to. And we're really hoping to create an awesome resource that can be used by schools all around the state
Mhm.
to be involved in showing students the next step of how to be. Voting is very important, but then the next step of whatever issue they care about, whether it's climate change or the tree down the street or anything else. This is a great way to put your local values into action.
One of the things that we're doing for this kickoff in April is that in addition to just inviting anyone to come out, because that's what we do, we are specifically inviting some of our, or all of our elected officials, local, state, within, Snohomish County and King County, because they're the closest, to come around. What would you want to say to those elected leaders when they're in the audience for kind of an action item? Because I think one of the things we want to make sure that we're doing too is not just talking about something and people walking away. We want to have an action item that someone can do in that moment. Maybe it'll be signing up to become part of that, um, the organization that you were just talking about, or recruiting teachers. Like, what is that one? What is one thing out of a lot that you would want to be able to say to them to resonate?
Yeah, totally. Wow, you're putting me on the spot there.
Yeah.
I would say, so this project really came about from the last election. Voter turnout was abysmal across the state, especially young people did not vote to the levels that they could have, for how many are registered voters or could become registered voters. And I think my one thing would be, we always say, or I've heard lots of people say, you know, we got to get the youth vote out. We want more young people engaged, but then it's like, how do we actually do that? So this is hopefully going to be that next step of, connecting all of those pieces of let's actually show young people that there are opportunities out there for them beyond just voting, and that this is a way that they can make government seem more accessible to them, but also see their issues being talked about, whatever they care about being represented. So my one action, I guess I keep going around, but
Yeah.
would be either a teacher, an educator, someone in your local school district, forward the flyer to them, have them be a part of the program, either as your teacher or your kid's teacher or whoever is teacher. Uh, I bet there's lots of civic educators out there. We just need help, like letting them know that this program's happening.
Absolutely. And see, that's why I wanted to just leave it like this and like have you guys put the meat on the skeleton for us, if you will. And how do we build this? And with the youth council, I will say that, we're looking at kind of an age range of 16 to 24. Not necessarily those that are in school. They could be a young working adult, someone that's, maybe they're a caretaker. You never know, what's going on. But that youth vote and that youth influence or young adult influence is super important. And you talked about debates, and of course, with Seattle City Club and our Washington State Debate Coalition, we're gearing up to, host statewide, debates across the state. Actually, we're partnering with the Spokesman Review over in Spokane to be able to deliver the U.S. Senate debate, the Attorney General, Governor, but also looking at doing the congressional districts as well. So that's a heavy lift. And one of the things that I noticed in convening these is trying to get younger people involved. And we haven't been super successful, but I think it's because, again, we're coming from this place of older person saying, hey, young person, here are your opportunities, as opposed to saying, hey, how do you want to be involved? So educate us in this moment. What is it? What would you like, or what are folks in your age range, your life area? What is it that you want to be able to do in participating in the debate format and being able to be a part of it, to be able to influence and bring others out to it? What's ideally the way to get you involved?
Yeah, for sure. I've always I think the best way I've like found success with working with people my age is when it's by young people for young people, working if they see someone like that kind of looks like them or thinks the same way as them, talking about things that they care about or things that they could care about. That's always had success for me.
Yeah.
So in perspective of the debates, having young people be part of the question making process and asking the questions or whatnot. I've never planned a debate myself, so I don't exactly know what opportunities lie out there, but I bet it's in great hands with your hands.
Well, I'm looking forward to it more so now because one of the things that we are doing, we're putting our money where our mouth is, if you will, in regards to looking at the leadership from this youth council to help us not only in our programming but with putting debates together. What are those things for engagement? One of the things is that collectively the youth council will have a spot on our board of directors. So you guys will be very much involved in what's kind of happening on that level. And then two, helping us plan those debates that we're doing. And so we'll get ready to close out on that, but I just wanted to make sure I share with people. I know that's a long link, but if you go to our website and learn more about our Civically Engaged Youth Council and our leadership, which does span the political spectrum, which I'm very happy about. And then we're actually going to be adding some new information on there relatively soon so we can do an application process for others to be able to become a member of our youth council. So with that, Chirag, thank you so much. Any final words you want to share with anybody before they meet you in April?
No, thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this discussion. Again, please come out to our April Civic Cocktail where we will be launching the Youth Council. We'll also be talking about youth service and some of the pros and cons that they're running into as far as getting more young people involved in like AmeriCorps. So we're going to be talking with the executive director of City Year Seattle, Tara Mitchell, to talk more about that as well. So it's going to be a great event. Go to our website, go and register right now. It is going to be a great April. Actually, Chirag, one of the things we're going to do as well for all the young people that are coming, we're going to have free professional headshots for you guys to take because you're
Great.
all getting your LinkedIn profiles and doing all these other things. So, again, we want to make sure that we're supporting um, you in all of these efforts. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. And stay tuned. We'll have episode number 3 coming next week. Take care.